What if the future of the Middle East hinged on a single phone call? A shocking offer from Putin, a rejected deal from Trump, and a bombshell strike that could change everything. The Iran-Israel conflict has just taken a wild turn, but will it lead to peace or war? Stay tuned. The world is on the edge of a precipice, teetering dangerously between diplomacy and disaster. Tensions are running high in the Middle East as two powerful forces, the United States and Russia, clash over the future of Iran. But the twists and turns in this geopolitical drama are more intense than anyone could have anticipated. A recent phone call between President Vladimir Putin of Russia and President Donald Trump of the United States has set the stage for a series of events that may change the course of history. As the world watches, Putin's voice echoes with authority. The Russian president, a seasoned strategist, declares that the involvement of external powers in the Middle East conflict, particularly with Iran, is pushing the world to the brink of a catastrophic war. He warns that every missile fired, every airstrike launched, pushes global stability closer to collapse. In his eyes, the stakes couldn't be higher. The entire world is being held hostage by these escalating tensions. But Putin is resolute. He believes there's another way, a diplomatic path, a chance for peace, a chance for everyone to back away from the abyss. But then, a twist. Putin calls Trump, offering help. The Russian president suggests that Moscow could mediate, could facilitate talks between Iran and Israel, and, in doing so, avoid the unimaginable horrors of all-out war. But here's the shocking part. Trump says no. In the same breath, Trump makes it clear that he doesn't need Russia's help. He's not interested in negotiating peace with Iran through Moscow. Instead, his focus is squarely on Ukraine, on striking a deal with Russia to end the ongoing crisis there. The President of the United States is effectively pushing away the offer of a peace broker from one of the world's most powerful leaders, a move that, at first glance, seems incomprehensible. Why would Trump refuse Putin's offer? Why would he turn down a chance at peace? It's a question that many are asking. Some believe it's because Trump has his eyes set on a larger game. He's looking to protect Israel, an ally in the region, from the looming threat of a nuclear Iran. Others think it's about power dynamics, a refusal to let Russia take the lead in any peace talks. But one thing is certain, this moment is more than just a political calculation. It's a declaration of intent. Trump is sending a message to the world, and to Iran, that the U.S. will stand firm, with or without Russia's help. But then comes the next revelation that sends shockwaves through the international community. While tensions between Iran and Israel continue to climb, Israel has made a bold move. The Israeli military, undeterred by the fragile ceasefire agreement, launches a devastating airstrike on Iran's nuclear facilities. The missiles fall, and the world holds its breath. This is no small operation. The scale of the attack is unlike anything seen before. Bombs of such size and power that even Trump in his bombastic style can't help but be stunned. The U.S. president takes to the media, expressing his anger at Israel's actions. He's not pleased. He's furious. His words hit hard. "I've never seen bombs like this before," he says, revealing the magnitude of the strike. But Trump's fury isn't just aimed at Israel. He's also angry at Iran, but for different reasons. He's upset that Iran continues to defy the ceasefire. He's angry at their continued military aggression, despite the world's calls for peace. Then, as the tension grows, Trump does something unexpected. He calls for Israel to calm down, but not in the way you might think. Instead of simply condemning Israel's actions, Trump makes it clear that he's demanding control over how Israel acts on the global stage. It's a bold statement, one that speaks volumes about his vision of America's place in the world and his unwavering commitment to Israel's security. Israel, don't drop those bombs, Trump posts on social media. He tells them to bring the pilots home, essentially giving them an ultimatum: back down or face consequences. This phone call with Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, is more than just a diplomatic exchange. It's a power play, a high-stakes maneuver in a game that could change the entire balance of power in the Middle East. Netanyahu knows the weight of Trump's words. He knows that failing to comply could mean the end of one of the strongest alliances in modern geopolitics. As if the situation wasn't already volatile enough, the international community watches closely. From Moscow to Beijing, from Tehran to Tel Aviv, everyone is waiting for the next move. The stakes have never been higher. Will Trump's call to Israel end the cycle of violence, or will it only serve to escalate the tensions? Will Russia's role as a potential peace broker prove to be more than just talk? The world is waiting for an answer, and the clock is ticking. The stakes couldn't be more dire. The world is on the edge, and every move, every word, every action could tip it into chaos. What happens next? Only time will tell. But as the Middle East burns, the world is holding its breath, watching as these two superpowers, Russia and the United States, continue to battle for control over the fate of the region. And Iran? It stands at the center, waiting to see if it will survive the storm. The tension between Israel and Iran reached a boiling point in a way no one could have predicted. After the ceasefire agreement was signed, there was a flicker of hope that perhaps a temporary peace could hold. But that hope was short-lived. Just hours after the truce was established, Israel launched an airstrike that sent shockwaves throughout the region. It wasn't just any attack. This was a bold, calculated strike at Iran's most sensitive and strategic assets, its nuclear facilities. The bombs dropped with a force that shook the very foundations of the Middle East, and the scale of the assault left many stunned, including the US president himself. Donald Trump, ever the defender of Israel, found himself caught between his unwavering support for the country and the unsettling magnitude of this operation. As the dust settled from the bombings, Trump's anger was palpable. He took to the press, expressing his shock at the scale of the attack, saying, "I've never seen bombs like this before." His words hung in the air, heavy with disbelief. For all his rhetoric about standing firm with Israel, Trump could not ignore the enormity of the situation. The attack had not only escalated the violence, but it had done so in a way that was impossible to ignore. It was clear that Israel had crossed a line, but the question remained, was this an isolated incident, or was it a sign of things to come? The situation was far more complex than it appeared on the surface. Israel's decision to carry out the strike wasn't just about sending a message to Iran. It was also about sending a message to the world. The country had been pushed to the brink by what it saw as an existential threat. For years, Iran's nuclear ambitions had loomed large over the region, and Israel had made it clear that it would not stand by while its security was at risk. Yet, despite the clear threats and escalating tensions, Israel had agreed to the ceasefire, or so it seemed. The truth was that Israel had always been ready for action, even if it meant violating the ceasefire to protect its interests. But in the wake of the bombing, things took an unexpected turn. Trump's reaction was not one of simple condemnation. Instead, he voiced his frustration not just with Iran, but with Israel as well. The US president, who had long been Israel's staunchest ally, expressed displeasure at Israel's decision to act unilaterally. It was as if he was trying to balance his loyalty to Israel with the reality of what had just transpired. This moment was not just a diplomatic incident. It was a turning point, one that could reshape the way the US viewed its relationship with Israel. Trump's response was equally unexpected. While he was clearly angry, he wasn't entirely dismissive of Israel's position. Instead, he issued a public call for restraint. "Israel, don't drop those bombs," he said in a tweet, urging the country to pull back and reassess its approach. It was a strange moment of tension between two allies, and it sent ripples of uncertainty through both Israel and the broader international community. Would Israel heed Trump's call? Would it back down from its military actions, or would it continue down the path of aggression? In a surprising move, just hours later, Trump appeared to change his tone again. In a phone call with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Trump reaffirmed his support for Israel, but made it clear that he wanted to see the situation de-escalate. The message was simple but powerful. The U.S. would not tolerate unchecked aggression, even from its closest ally. It was as though Trump was reminding Israel that while the U.S. had always been there for them, it was time to recalibrate and consider the broader consequences of their actions. The fallout from this escalation wasn't limited to just Israel and Iran. The global community watched closely as the situation unraveled. While some countries, like Australia and Japan, expressed their support for Israel's actions, they also urged for a return to diplomacy and restraint. On the other hand, nations like Russia and China, who had long warned against military escalation, criticized the attack as an illegal breach of the ceasefire. They saw it as a dangerous escalation that could spiral out of control, dragging the entire region into an even deeper conflict. Meanwhile, Iran, as expected, was furious. The Iranian government issued a blistering response, accusing Israel of violating the truce and undermining any hope for peace. Tehran's anger was not just directed at Israel, but also at the US, which it saw as complicit in the attack. Iran's leadership insisted that it would not back down, pledging to defend its sovereignty and its right to pursue nuclear technology for peaceful purposes. The rhetoric from Tehran was fiery, and there was no indication that the situation was about to calm down anytime soon. But perhaps the most concerning aspect of this entire crisis was the way the international community reacted. While some countries called for restraint, others saw this as an opportunity to assert their influence in the region. The United Nations was caught in the middle, struggling to find a solution that would satisfy all parties. The international body held emergency meetings, but it became increasingly clear that the gulf between the US and Russia was widening. As the US continued its support for Israel, Russia stood firmly with Iran, making it almost impossible for any meaningful negotiations to take place. As the world watched, the situation became increasingly uncertain. Would Israel continue to strike Iran, or would it heed Trump's warning and pull back? Would the US continue to stand by its ally, or would it change course and pursue a more diplomatic solution? The future of the Middle East, it seemed, was hanging by a thread. The decisions made in the coming days would shape the region's destiny, and the world would be watching, waiting, and hoping that sanity would prevail before it was too late.